I think you're good to go. I'm just gonna see if it loads on my phone.
Thank you.
Oh, that's cool, man. Alright, sweeps. Just murdered everyone.
Yeah.
Are we good, Jay?
I believe you are.
Just clearing. I'm just clearing the board for you. You know.
Is that a yes? Okay, cool. So Zarya, we're just gonna go over some basics really fast. For those who don't know, which I'm assuming is everyone, her barriers are life. So there's a lot of like the first thing you really need to learn is like your barrier usage. So like a lot of people have the recommendation that you should never ever use your right bumper, which is your ally bubble. The other like thought process which like how to use these bubbles is to basically always alternate. So like then one, and then when that's done, then it's me, right? They both have their merits. So in the first strategy, when you're holding on to it, it's kind of like I tend to save that for matches against like Roadhogs especially, right? Because then you're gonna be able to save your team from those big power shots. If you're playing against a team like with a lot of roadies and Reapers and things like that that do high damage output in single burst that you can see it happening, it's definitely worth it to hold on to the right trigger or the right bubble. Use your ally bubble. However, if you are moving a payload forward or you are, you know, with a Rhine or anything like that, I tend to prefer the alternate switch setup. So basically what I'm talking about is, yeah, Squeeps, can you go Rhine really fast?
Sure.
So if you are basically like moving forward, the whole idea, because she's an off tank, is to put your shield up, Doug. Cool. So if I am, no, I want to be behind you. Okay, cool. So yeah, so basically like, as Orion, he's taking a lot of damage to his shield, and I have the ability to essentially like come forward with my shield up, and then Squeeps walk forward, man. Let Squeeps come back as I step back, and then Squeeps can move forward. Something that a lot of people I don't think realize is Zarya is like, if you put a bubble on a Reinhardt with the shield up, that entire area that would normally affect his shield affects the bubble. So you're talking the possibility of getting full charge as people spam into Reinhardt's shield. So let's talk about charge. So I think at max right now it's like what, 20? Right? Yeah, I think it's 20% increase that you can get from a single strike. That being said, your bubble goes up to 200 damage blocked while it's up. So like fire strikes are prime. Something really good to do early on is something called double bubble. When you see an enemy Reinhardt, it's the easiest one to see that's coming. When you see that fire strike, just like double bubble, right? That you're talking 40% charge right away. So bubbles do not count to your alt charge, and ultimately, like, your alt charge is like the slowest alt charge in the entire game. The best way to get it is kills, and that's where like Zarya is kind of half tank, half DPS. And as an off tank, she's really relying on, you know, either a Winston or a Reinhardt to be like the main defensive shielding, or the one that's causing the interruption. But regardless, she can do a lot once she has a high enough percentage. So I'm gonna go get shot a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Go test out with the bots.
yeah, so is it 40? Yeah, it's probably, I think it's 40, maybe. We'll find out really soon. So basically, wow, man, never gonna get to that.
Oh my
so,
God.
wow, that's so many Zenyatta charges.
That's Sombra ulted surprisingly well.
So when you are playing Zarya and you're facing like large numbers like that, she actually can do fine off by herself. I mean, I would always recommend like being with someone else. I mean, obviously like Deathball is there for a reason, but basically like if you wanted to, let's say you wanted to be like act as a primary tank as Zarya, the trick is to essentially like half corner, half bully. So what I mean by that is essentially like as I'm at this corner and I have my shield up, for this short time that I have my shield up, I am essentially a full-on tank, right? And it's not very long, but like regardless, like what you want to do is like get your charge up, get to the point where you can bully, and once you can bully, it's basically just moving forward. So when do you bully? A lot of people say different ranges. I know people who like don't want to do it until they're at like 70%. I know people who would do it like at 40. I tend to think if you're 60% or 65% and over, you have enough charge to actually make an impact. So like per second, this beam actually does, I think somewhere like 80 DPS. But the problem is that it's like really difficult to like track, right? So if you want to get good with Zarya, first thing you need to do is like go to the practice range and just practice tracking. As your percentage goes up, it goes up for every 2 damage you get 1 percentage, so up to a max of 40. Thank you, live. So basically, like as you're moving up, you can start being more aggressive and moving forward. I really, once I hit that 60%, will treat her like a bull, and by that I mean like I can literally walk off and segment. So, Squeeps, can you just put your shield up, man? And face me, cool. So let's say I have 60% charge and I am attacking, right? My team is definitely going to be working on Squeeps, but as a Zarya, I can move forward and be aggressive and come back when I have that 60%. But like, notice how this range, the range of this beam is like, I think it's like 30 meters in the game, and basically what you should be doing is when you find a group, a death ball essentially, and let's say Reinhardt, just put your shield down for a second. So let's say like his shield is down, like as a Zarya, if I put my bubble up and I have 60% charge, I'm basically going to use this to come between the two of them, because you'd be surprised the amount of people who do not want to walk in the path of a Zarya beam. So what I'm doing is I'm basically segmenting the death ball, and then I'm going to move in and go after either their healers or the primary targets, whoever you dub that to be. But I mostly go, if there's like a Mercy or an Ana, especially a Zen, who has the lowest mobility and it's very easy for the beam to hit. That's like an instant kill essentially, right? Especially if you're at 60% or more. You can literally just walk into a situation, segment, pull out, and then chase down. That's like the easiest trick. So use the beam to like cut people in half, cut groups in half, bring them out, and then segment. Another thing to really think about, and I know a lot of people know this, but is like this, the left trigger, the bomb, that does splash damage, which is like, so honestly, like unless I know for sure I'm within beam range, I'm almost always doing splash damage. And because it's, yeah, I am, and because it goes on. Why? Cool. Okay, good question. So why do I do splash damage? Because ultimately, like, I'm using it as a way to get in the distance that I wouldn't otherwise. But also, what's more important is I'm doing, like, think of it like this. Like, your DPS have their own role. And, like, let's say Hanzo on my team here, his job is to really to, like, get high damage value hit scan. So what he's missing is basically someone to do chip damage so that his single shot turns into a death. So by doing this, I'm getting an effective area, and I'm doing somewhere, I think it's like, like 40 damage, I think. But I mean, it also gets multiplied, right? So if you're talking like an 80% charge in this ball, you're doing like an AoE of like a ridiculous amount of damage. And not just that, and this is like probably what's most important, is that as a tank, your job is to essentially like make space, right? And what people don't, like, people tend to forget is that as a Zarya, like, this beam, unless it is strong enough to really piss people off and you can segment like I talked about before and move forward, this is your best disruptor as a Zarya. And the reason is it has awesome pushback.
Yeah.
One of the things that you should learn as like a Zarya player is like, let's say Reinhardt was on the other team and coming at me, like this motion of shooting at his feet and stepping back and jumping back is like key to your survival as a Zarya. So like if you want to practice something, go to like quick play, try to get into accidental duels with like Reins especially because they're so difficult as a Zarya player, and just practice moving back and always aim for their feet. Because what you're trying to do is essentially like change their pathway and make them like second guess movement, right? So that's like the biggest key is like using that pushback. So, and I want to talk about now is like different types of matchups that you might encounter and what's good for Zarya, what's bad for Zarya, right? So, Reinhardt. A lot of the times, a Reinhardt, when you are a Zarya, is probably like one of your worst matchups. And the reason is really simply that like my shield will never compare to his shield. And unless I have charge of, I think, like 65, 70%, his health pool and his hammer is probably going to do a lot more damage to me quicker than I could ever do to him. So in those situations, I highly recommend just like keeping him back with your pulse bomb and essentially like backing away until your team can give you cover fire and you can use your friends as an extra shield. Secondly, another bad matchup to watch out for is a Rhodey, and the reason that Rhodey's are so like terrible for Zarya's is essentially like the only way. So like Zarya thrives on two things, right? Her shields and her teammates. And the reason is that she has teammates is because she has a teammate shield. But when Rhodey picks you away, if you don't have your personal shield to save you, you are essentially going to die because you have no one to like cover for you. You have no one to help you out, and unless like even if you have a high percentage output, you're basically like pulled away from your team. And Zarya is such a character that like needs to be around other teammates at all times. Like if she gets segmented, you're in deep shit unless you have that high percentage value. Reaper,
Do you want to try
I know
out
a lot
the ult combos?
yeah, hold on a second.
My ultimate is ready.
Yeah, so another one that
You can
a lot of people
test it
say
out
is
in
like
bots too.
Reaper
Acknowledge.
is like Reaper, and so here's the trick with Reaper: you want to get shot once and then bubble, because the bubble has such a wide range in terms of my body mass as like a character. You basically almost get his entire shotgun shells. After you have that first hit and he shoots the second at closer range with a full bubble, you will have a ridiculous, like you basically get full charge possible with every shot, and if he shoots twice, he's as good as dead because you will out DPS him. The last one that I want to talk about in terms of like what's troubling, it would be Mei. And a lot of people like have troubles with Mei. I actually find her very easy to handle, and the trick is really simple. What you want to do is basically like let her start to freeze you, but obviously like don't let her freeze you. Then at like the last moment bubble up, and during that whole time what you want to do is push her back, shooting at her feet, because her entire freezing ability is based on distance, and your distance is longer with the beam. So the whole goal is to essentially like push her back, push her back, push her back, bubble when you need to, and then like either rejoin your team or keep shooting her with the pushback. So like make sure that you learn this left trigger bomb. It is way more beneficial, in my opinion, than the beam. The beam is your major damage output. The left trigger bomb is how you're going to survive. And like as a tank, your main goal should always be to survive. Cool. So let's talk about ult combinations. Everybody knows that Zarya's ultimate is considered one of the best in the game because it combos so well. Now there's like a lot of different thought processes. I hear a lot of people say like, oh, well, you wasted your ult, and like, yes, sometimes Zarya players waste their ult, but I think what people don't realize is that Zarya's ultimate, it has two great purposes. Like one is either an early initiation ult. In other words, you pop that when the fight just begins because you're basically like taking the fight first, right? By doing that, you're ultimately causing the other team to lose at least one player early on, which then means you have at least a 6v5 and possibly 6v4, 6v3, and that's an instantaneous win for your team unless Mercy reses, at which point she's wasted her res at the beginning of the battle as opposed to the end, and you as a Zarya player and a team have a higher chance of winning. Additionally, there's the, save the Zarya ult for when they're all grouped up. And obviously, like, this is the best thing. You always want to pair your ults. If you're doing solo queue, when I solo queue, I spam the shit out of this call for my ultimate is ready. But yeah, so, okay, so let's say, you're holding on to it, and they never group up. So what are some other opportunities that you should look for with a Zarya ult? Well, it has a slow charge, so you need to be like very purposeful about all of this, but I tend to use it on either points where I need them to stay off the payload, or not the payload, the point for a second. So I might push it on the outskirts of a point. Additionally, I'll use it regularly to stop a Mercy. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, literally, if you see a Mercy who's trying to fly in and you pop your ult and keep her from moving in, you basically canceled her ult. Likewise, if you see a Mercy res, that is a great time to pop your ult because you're essentially like canceling her ult, right? So use it to either cancel someone else's ultimate by pulling them away. I've done this with Rhodey a lot. In other words, like Rhodey is starting to pop his ult. I will literally use mine so that he can't get the close distance to cause pushback, and it allows my team to sweep up and kill them faster. Cool. So, Pretty Dragons. One of the last things I really wanted to talk about was, this was important too. What was I going to talk about? 1 second. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. So basic things. So like the ammo charge for her right trigger is 100%, or her main gun is 100%, and both left and right trigger are going to take away from that. Your left trigger does 25 ammo, your right is like 1 per sec, or 2 per second. So basically like what you're... Yeah. I think what we'll do next is we'll hop into a quick play match and play a game. But essentially, like, really fast, what I want to say is like, if you're watching this and you see that it basically, I'm gonna go down to, so that's 25. But if I go down, I'm gonna try to not mess this up. Oh boy. Cool, perfect. Okay, great. So if you are at, like, it takes 25 ammo to shoot your left trigger, but it only that last shot will do the same amount of damage regardless of how much ammo you have if you're under 25. So I'm at 1 here, and that's still going to do the same amount of damage as if I had full 25 ammo usage. So you should always burn through your beam when you're shooting, and then have that last one be a bomb, right? Cool. Yeah. All right. So I think what we'll do now is, I guess, hop into a quick play game, and then I can talk about things during the match, and go from there. Oh, this is actually something I want to talk about. So when you pop your people like to their beam. Personally, I almost always spam my left trigger, the splash damage, because with her ultimate, she's essentially like grouping people together. So it's, in my opinion, it's way better to get massive amounts of damage spread. Oh, sorry, dude. I just watched you die. So like, yeah, the AI ends, man. So like, so if you pop the ult, once again, keep the roll. You have 65 on your, like 65 charge on your beam. How many people are there? If you have like 2 people, go for your beam. If you have a full 6, you should 100% be spamming your left trigger. And the reason is you want to do as much damage across the group as possible so that your team can finish up the kills quickly. Zarya is definitely like someone who's there for your team, not necessarily there for herself, although once again, if you do get 65% charge or more, she turns into a bull of a DPS, and by that I mean walk forward, separate the healers, chase them down, take them out. Cool. Alright, let's go ahead and go to a quick play match. Ooh, actually, how are we going to do this? Because Jay is the one streaming. Let's see if I get his attention. 1 second, guys. Oh, yeah, last thing. If you guys don't know, Zarya can rocket jump. It's basically you want to do left trigger then A, left trigger then A at that repetition. This is really helpful on maps like Anubis. You can get into places you never thought Zarya could get to. And also, don't know how I passed up this one. Notice that she has 400 health and half of it is shields that recharge. So basically, like, as a Zarya, oh, this is everything I want to talk about. Okay, cool. Yo, just stay here for a second, man. So like, as a Zarya player, when I am getting attacked, I want to take damage first, and then put up my shield, right? Because it is a hell of a lot harder for them to stop shooting me once they've started than to like choose to start or not. Always, always, always take damage first. You have that. The whole reason that as a character you have that 200 shield is so that you can start taking damage, and it will regain. Right? So as a Zarya player, I want to take damage into that blue area, pop my shield, do damage, and then hop back either behind a Reinhardt shield or behind a corner until I get high enough damage that I'm a psychological threat and they will literally run away from you as a Zarya player. When you start to glow, players literally back away. And so it's super important to make sure that you're doing the right economy as a player with your shields and making sure that you're baiting out enough hits that you can get to that point where you cause a psychological impact for you to be able to cut through a group and focus on the healers. Cool. All right. I need to figure out what we're doing with Jay. Yo, 1 second. Do you have any, Evil, since you are here, my man, do you have any questions? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, no, look, man, honestly, when you are dealing with engagements and you see one of your teammates is chasing down someone, you should 100% follow them, essentially, and use your beam because it's continuous damage, right? Which is great. There's not a lot of characters that do continuous damage like that. However, when you are dueling as a Zarya or you are trying to do group impact, there's nothing better than her left trigger. Also, really fun thing, if you have a Mercy and you are in trouble at a choke point, try to have your, like, put your bubble up, then have the Mercy come, like, as soon as you hear the Mercy, like, fly to you, jump back. The Mercy's gonna land right in front of you, and you instantly pocket her, causing you to basically have 2 shields instead of 1, right? So 1, then 2 behind. Considering that the shields only last for a couple seconds, that is a huge impact as a Zarya player, because by the time that you have that all done, if you are behind a corner, your shields will start to recharge. So that is super helpful. And the last thing I want to really quickly discuss while I'm still trying to get a hold of Jay is to basically be, yeah, Jay. Hold on 1 second. What was I gonna talk about? This is important too. It's a good trick. It's like the Mercy trick. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So just want to talk about like tanks in general and like why this doesn't happen with Zarya, but it should. So like everyone knows what body blocking is. It is when you literally step in front of one of your teammates to keep them from getting hit. I do this religiously with Zarya, and I don't even need a bubble for it, right? Because I have 200 damage that I can take hits and regain. So if my healer, if Hanzo here is a healer and he is being like hit on terribly by a tracer, like I can literally hop in front, and because I'm a big old tank and I have a beam, I can use that to essentially ward off the attacker, like a flanker, for instance, right? This is a big old scary thing to a lot of players and causes them to like either stay away or like run away. So always body block when possible, but also remember that like you take up on a huge effective space when you have a bubble on, and like here I'm just like a Russian bodybuilder, you know, hello. But like now I'm taking up half of this walkway. That's massive. That's a huge amount of space. So whenever you see an ultimate happening, you should 100% try to use either your ult or additionally get behind someone who can basically be a wall for you, right? And this is what I mean by like pretending to be a main tank even though you're not. It's not so much like being a main tank in the sense that you are Reinhardt and you are a shield and you can just walk forward. It is more like being a tank both like psychologically based on this area that you can like literally just like almost effectively ward off because no one wants to get close to you, or it is through being a shield for like